A system that was built on total control has just lost it. And what you're seeing, what looks like just chaos, it's actually a confession. You know, the people who are scrambling to cover this up, they already know it's way too late. The damage is done. This isn't just a wobble. This is power revealing its true, panicked face. At first, power showed its teeth, but then it showed its fear. And that's the real story here. It's about what happens when a political machine that's designed for absolute domination gets suddenly, brutally exposed. So no, this isn't just another political fight you can ignore. This is a raw, desperate scramble for survival. Because this is all about exposure, and you have to remember, the most dangerous, most unpredictable moves, they always happen right before the end. And we are at that moment right now. To really get what's happening, you have to understand the terror that's driving all of this. You have to understand what this whole fight was really trying to protect. It all comes down to this one word: accountability. That single word, it explains everything. It explains the rush, the absolute recklessness. It explains why a secret strategy suddenly detonated right out in the open for everyone to see. You know, Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. If your power is just based on luck, on things going your way, it's fragile. It can break. Real, lasting power comes from building a system that can't be touched. A ruler has to shape events before events shape him. And that very same fear is what drives Donald Trump's entire strategy. And that right there, that's the playbook. That's exactly why Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans launched this quiet war over redistricting. This was never, ever about the voters. It was about building a shield, a fortress made of laws and political maps. So what was the plan? Well, it was supposed to be simple. Use a quiet, kind of boring mid-decade redistricting to build a firewall, a silent grab for power that no one was supposed to notice. And the goal was tiny, just 5 seats, that's it. A small, surgical tweak to the map, done with absolutely no noise, no media attention. But here's the thing about fear. Fear makes you rush. And rushing, well, rushing makes a lot of noise. And the second that noise started, the second the plan became visible, the illusion of control just shattered. And it all started to unravel, fast. Okay, so here's how it went down. It starts in Texas with what they called a technical fix. But opponents, they smelled blood in the water. They fought back, doing the exact same thing in other states. Suddenly, the quiet plan is an open war. And then came the real shocker: betrayal. In Indiana, his own Republican allies said no. They voted the whole thing down. And this is where the psychology of it all becomes so critical. By attacking his own allies, Donald Trump didn't create loyalty. He created a coalition of resentment. And their quiet no was way more damaging than any loud protest could ever be. So you see, this failure wasn't just about losing a couple of seats in Congress. No, it was a catastrophic loss of mystique. And in the world of power, mystique is everything. It's the real currency. Because once that mystique is gone, power doesn't look so powerful anymore. It looks ordinary. It looks weak. And at that point, psychology is so much more important than political math. So what does that weakness look like? Well, just look at the signals. When key figures like Mike Johnson start literally running from cameras or dodging basic questions, they're not projecting strength. They're projecting pure insecurity. It's like Machiavelli said, when the lieutenant looks scared, the prince looks doomed. So what's the next move? Distraction. But every attempt to change the subject just proved that the narrative was already lost. Remember the whole Greenland idea? That wasn't some 4D chess move. It was a panic button, and it backfired, reminding everybody of the chaos. And on top of all that, the crises just kept piling up. Old scandals, new accusations, even credible challengers popping up from inside the ranks. Every single one was another crack in the foundation. Legitimacy started to bleed away as people began to see all this chaos not as strength, but just as incompetence. And all of this leads us to the final, most dangerous stage. Because power that feels itself being backed into a corner, it becomes dangerously unpredictable. It doesn't plan. It just lashes out to survive. And that realization is spreading. It's not about looking weak anymore. It's about what happens next. Because vulnerability, well, that invites betrayal. It shatters unity, not from the outside, but from the inside out. Look, once a leader openly bricks the system just to save himself, he can never, ever go back to pretending he respects that system. The mask is off, and it's off for good. This leaves us with a truly terrifying question. What happens when all the old tricks stop working? Because rulers who get trapped by their own tactics, they don't learn, they don't adapt, they escalate. So the real question isn't whether they can survive this collapse, it's what, and more importantly, who they are willing to sacrifice before they're forced to admit that the collapse is already happening.